Congratulations, you made it all the way to week 10. Let's keep on scratching and surviving. Next. All right, guys. We are now in week 10. If you made it this far in this rough, turbulent season, congratulations. I've got a couple more entries left. I've got one in that small pool that is now down to 2 people, so could be won or lost any moment now. And then I've got another large one that is double picks from this point on out. I've only got one entry left in that large pool. We started with 8,000 entries in that pool. We're down to approximately 200 double picks. I don't expect this pool to go much more than the next, maybe 4 more weeks. It's going to be tough to do double picks when you consider all the good teams that have been eliminated. Now, we get a Josh Allen injury last week, and this is why I tell you guys in the beginning of the season, I don't like to look too far out in the future. I don't want to save teams for too long out in the future because injuries start to change things up, and teams that you may have been saving for 5, 6, 7 weeks from now are no longer quality teams. And you look at the beginning of the year, we thought that the Rams were going to be better than they were. We thought that Green Bay would be better than they are. Tampa hasn't looked very good. So there's a lot of teams that we thought would be good that aren't good. Now, this week, we're looking at teams like the Giants, a team that we thought might be one of the worst teams in the league. Now they're going to be the most popular pick this week. So things change dramatically based on injuries and just performance. Seattle outperforming the Jets, outperforming our expectations. So it changes the dynamic of these pools. And obviously, all of those teams that have surprised us is the reason that we have so few people left in most of these pools. So that's why we play it the way we do. We're always looking in the larger pools to take a little bit more risk, less risk in the smaller pools, and that's exactly what we're going to do this week. Now, we're getting to the point in these larger pools where now you could start getting chalkier with your picks. We don't have that much more to go, right? So we can get a little chalkier. We don't want to save as much. We're still going to be a little bit more risky than we are in the pools where we have a much better chance to win, lower entries, right? So I'm going to probably play things differently in the pool that I have. I'm 1 of 2 as opposed to being 1 of 200. But again, in that large pool, at least for me, it's double picks, so it becomes even more difficult. But if you're in something like the Draftkings pool, Circa, any of those where you still have quite a few number of people to go, you're gonna want to look to still be a little bit different, gain a little bit of leverage. Again, when we go contrarian, we don't go with the most crazy pick. We don't start taking a 3-point underdog. We're looking for favorites, and we're looking for the favorites that may not necessarily be getting as much attention as some of the others. So let's forget the hypotheticals. Let's kind of jump right into the Survivor Grid. And for you newcomers here, this is survivorgrid.com. Great website that's going to help you in your Survivor pools. And I've already got this marked up for my small pool that I'm in. And I think it's worthwhile to look at what I've got going. A lot of you are going to be in a similar situation. Not too many people have Buffalo, Kansas City, Philly left. You may have San Fran. I have San Francisco in that other pool. I do have them left. So you very possibly have San Francisco. But if your choices are like mine, where it's really, I've got 2 entries. I want to take, as I always advise you guys, I want to take basically the largest favorite that week. That's what I've been doing the last few weeks in that pool. I've taken the largest favorite I can. Someone had Buffalo available to them last week, and that's how they lost. I had Kansas City. So did my opponent. I think we both had Kansas City. One person had Buffalo. The Buffalo lost, and now the 2 Kansas Cities, we advance and move on. So what we're looking at, though, this week now, I could take Vegas, and I could take the Giants, and so can my opponent. So if I'm in that situation, they're very similar, very tight on the spreads. I'm going to, of course, wait until the last possible minute to make this play, because if something happens, if there's some sort of an injury, if suddenly the Giants move down to maybe a 4-point favorite, 4.5-point favorite, or Vegas moves up to an 8-point favorite, whatever it may be, that may change my logic here. But let's assume everything is status quo, and this is what we're going to be seeing come Sunday morning, the same type of lines. Now, I'm leaning towards Vegas. I'm going to tell you why. Now, usually I would just take the Giants, take the team that is most likely to be picked. And let me throw this out there before I even get into my logic here behind Vegas. I think some of you may be thinking, well, I want to take the team that my opponent doesn't take, because if they lose, then I win my game, I'll win the pool, right? And that, of course, is great. But we want to get ourselves in that situation two different ways. When we're in a heads up situation, then we always want to be, if we can, we always want to have the team with the best probability to win. And if we get different, then we're hoping that person took something with a lesser probability to win. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So that's why I like to be chalky in the pools where we don't have that many people, and you get chalky because you're hoping your opponent starts to get ideas like they're going to outsmart everybody and then want to differentiate and then take a much lesser team. So in this situation, we've got two teams that are pretty close to equal. There's a slight edge here to the Giants. As we could see, when we bring up Survivor Grid, a lot more people in pools are taking the Giants as of right now. So in a larger pool, I'm definitely leaning towards Vegas. But why did I say Vegas here in smaller pools and the pool I'm looking at? Now, I might put myself at a slight disadvantage. I might be 1 or 2 percentage points under the Giants, but Vegas plays the later game. So that gives me the ability to know, I may know before that Vegas game kicks off where I stand if my opponent takes the Giants. So if my opponent takes the Giants and the Giants lose that game before Vegas ever plays, I know I'm going to win the pool with a Vegas win, which means that's going to increase my hedge chances on this particular game. And of course, if the Giants win, I know that I'll lose the pool if Vegas loses, and again, that's going to influence how I hedge my game. So I have the advantage there in that I get more information than my opponent if they so choose to take the Giants. Now, if they counterfeit me and take Vegas, then so be it. I can't lose this week and I can't win, but I'll just move on to the next week, and we'll continue to play it smartly. We're going to get ourselves in situations that are beneficial, hopefully, and it's going to depend, obviously, on the teams we have left. So let's open up the Survivor Grid again, and I'm going with Vegas, like I said, and I may be at a slight disadvantage if my opponent takes the Giants, but I'm going to make up for that in the fact that I'm hedging. So let's just look at Vegas for the rest of the year. Am I doing anything to hurt myself the rest of the year by taking Vegas? And it really doesn't look that way. They're going to be at Denver, at Seattle, Chargers at home, at the Rams, New England at home, at Pittsburgh, San Francisco, and Kansas City. I mean, there's none of these games that are exciting you. So taking Vegas here, if you have them available to you this week in all formats, I think is a smart play, right? So if I'm in a large pool, I may still be looking at San Francisco or at Vegas. Now, if I had San Francisco left, I probably want to hold them off, right? So you've got, if you're in a larger pool, why take San Francisco when I could take Vegas? Now the Giants, let's look at what they've got. Now, next week, potentially against Detroit at home, possibly. At Dallas, you don't want them. Washington, maybe at home. Philly, no. At Washington, no. At Minnesota, no. The Colts, we'll see, possibly in week 17. And then at Philly. So not a ton of chances, but a few more opportunities potentially with the Giants. Let's look at next week here before we get too crazy. And next week, as you can see for me, is going to be a difficult week. I'm going to have Vegas. They have no interest to me next week. And then I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to be looking at either Cincinnati, New England, or the Giants, or Atlanta. I mean, we'll see. I'm probably not going to be Atlanta. I don't think they're going to wind up being the game with the largest line that's available to me. But I'm going to be in a situation again where maybe the Cincinnati line goes up to 7, the Jet line goes down to 4. We'll see. I'll be able to choose next week. I'll have a few options. They're not going to be great as that's as the case is as we get deeper into the season. But we'll have options, and again, if I get counterfeited and I just move on to next week, I'm going to play the same exact way until my opponent makes a mistake. Let my opponent try and become smarter than they really are and try and outthink me here. Then you're going to have Miami in week 12, which looks like, for me, an obvious choice. And if your opponent does not have Miami, of course, that's going to be a huge situation for you come week 12. And who knows? That could be a situation where they decide they're going to, maybe they have one of these other teams and they're going to jump on one of these other teams when you're going to have the biggest favorite of the week in week 12. So we'll see how that goes. Let's talk again about the larger pools. So I'm going to open up the spreadsheet so we can take a look at what we've got for larger pools. And, the spreadsheet's kind of easy for the smaller pools because we're really just looking for um, the biggest favorites each and every week. And then, of course, we're going to look a week or two down the road just to make sure that if we have a couple of options, we don't have anything that we want in the next week or two. And of course, we're going to, like I said, look to take the latest game possible so that we have better hedging opportunities. When you're a larger pool, it's going to be a lot more difficult to hedge. So I'm going to throw a little bit of that out. I'm not too worried about that. We're still playing this like early in the season. If you started with a pool and there's 200 people left, or you started a pool with 200 people and you were just one of those 200, of course, yes, we look at it differently because we've survived 10 weeks and you may have started with 8,000 people like I did in my pool and you're down to 200 and you're starting to feel good about yourself. You've got some equity in the pool, but you're still a big long shot to win the pool, as opposed to, of course, being down to sub 10 people in your pool where now you have a legitimate shot. So we still need to have a little bit of risk. If you've been able to save some of the good teams, fantastic. Now we're getting to the point where if you save some of these good teams, they're going to be high leverage plays for you, like a Philly. So if you did have Philly available to you, they become a really high leverage situation because most people don't have Philly. So if you have one of these big popular or one of these big favorites, now's the time you want to start taking those teams. So if you did have a Philly in a big pool, really in any pool at this point, you should be taking Philly. But if you don't have Philly, like most people don't have Philly available to them, you may have San Francisco available to you, but I would go with Vegas here in this situation before I took San Francisco. And I'm just putting this. You guys know how this spreadsheet works with the future weight. If I look at 75% future weight and I put 10 entries. Now, the reason I put 10 entries is just so that we could look at a 5 entry, just see how they're rated, right? So at 75, the Giants get rated the highest, and they're obviously the most popular pick. They're going to be 30% of pools right now. And, the spreadsheet kind of agrees because people are looking at the future value of the Giants. They think the Houston, obviously, one of the worst teams in football. So that's where the logic is going. But I think it's way overblown when we look at Vegas. Now, Vegas has been disappointing. That's the difference, right? So the Giants have been winning. Vegas keeps blowing leads. So you're in a situation now where you're getting such better leverage on Vegas. If the Giants were to lose and Vegas to win, you're going to get yourself in a much better situation to possibly win the pool. And again, I kind of like them in small pools here as well because there's not a big difference between the two teams, and I'm going to be able to hedge. Again, in the small pools especially, I'm going to be looking for the line to move. If the lines move dramatically, I may have to change and just have to take the Giants if the Giants become that big of a favorite. What is that going to look like? I don't know. If there's maybe an 8%, 7 to 8 plus percent differential between the two, we're looking at it right now. It's like a 2.5% differential. So it's going to have to move dramatically here for me to change my mind on this pick. Now, when I hedge, what I want to do is take the Colts plus the points. I know a lot of people like to hedge on the money line. I like to take it plus the points. I did that last week with Kansas City because I was in a similar situation. Like I said, I'm going to be in those situations quite frequently here as I get down to two people. But I took Kansas City or I took Tennessee plus the points. Blues 13 points last week that I was able to get Tennessee plus the points, and that wound up being an easy win. And so I've already covered my entry fees in at least in that pool, and that was and I was able to do it without actually losing my entry. So now I'm playing basically a free roll. And now this week I'm going to have an opportunity to hedge again. I'll hedge for a little bit more money if I'm the sole person. If I have a chance to win the 2,500 or so that's in the pot, I'll hedge for a little bit more. If I lose, you almost want to lose those hedging situations, right? So, ideally, what you want to do is win the hedge and then advance. But if I was in a situation where my opponent had the Giants and the Giants lose, and now I've got Vegas, and I want to throw $1,000, let's say, on the who's Vegas playing now? I'm forgetting. Oh, the Colts. So Vegas against the Colts, and I get it at, let's say, plus 6.5, and Vegas wins this game by a field goal. Even if they lose, I'm in a good situation. But if they win by a field goal, great. I win the pool, and I'm going to win my hedge bet. But if they lose outright, no big deal. I've now made myself $1,000, and I get to do it all again next week and put myself in a similar situation. So I have the potential with the hedging in the way I'm talking about with doing it with the points to be able to get myself to win even more money than I would have by just winning the pool. And of course, if I lose the pool, I'm going to still be in a situation where I'm going to at least not lose any money, maybe even make a few bucks. But we'll talk about that more in the future. But I want you guys to be positioned to be able to hedge these games, because hedging now is a big part of these pools. I don't like hedging future bets, and I don't like hedging parlays. I've got a whole video on that in the Academy inside the Sharp app you can check out. I don't particularly like those, and if you watch that video, you'll see my reasoning. But I love hedging in pools like this because it gives me the ability now to win and win. Even when I lose, I win. So again, with Kansas City, I lose my bet, but I won and I advance, and it keeps building up my potential winnings here to the point where I don't even have to win the pool to make any money. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. It's, of course, getting harder and harder to specifically look at your pool. You guys are going to have different picks available to you than I do. Comment down below. I'm always happy to answer. And make sure when you comment, guys, let me know how many people are left in the pool. If it's down to just a small amount of people, let me know who they can take as well as who you can take. And we'll discuss it and try to figure out the best possible plan for you guys to win your Survivor pools. All right, good luck, and hopefully I will see you guys next week.